how it goes.
All
Dan's
right.
on standby listening. We'll know.
Okay. All right. It should be live now.
Welcome to Yellow Vest Live TV. Today we have protesters from New Jersey who happen to have 500 protests for the March Against Murphy, and that was March 26th. Um, we have Alex Spielman with us, who happened to have the experience with Yellow Vest. He's with Yellow Vest New Jersey, to go out and actually be part of the protest itself. And he had a really great experience, and he came here today with us to share that. Um, at the table today, we have Dan, we have Adam, and we have Suze, and we have Shar. And we are introducing right now Alex Spielman, who happened to be in New Jersey at the protest. How did it go, Alex?
Is it here?
Alex?
Hello. Sorry, I was my thing was muted. I apologize.
How,
Um,
how did how did your protest go in New Jersey, Alex?
it went extremely well, especially considering the situations that we had. It was actually a pretty chilly morning, and we were in an area where there was a lot of wind. So I think for what we were dealing with, I think it was really well. Like you were saying before, we had roughly 500 people there, and marching right to the Capitol, uh, talking about our disdain. There was a lot of members of the 2A community. People who are not familiar, 2A meaning Second Amendment, gun rights. And they're talking about all the different issues that they have when it comes to the infringements of their constitutional rights. Um, I was I was there really to talk about my disdain for how they were dealing with education, and how right now we're being taxed left and right, and how people are literally leaving the state in droves because they just can't afford it anymore. I mean, this is a beautiful, beautiful
Well,
state.
there was also one word that came out a lot, and that was corruption in New
Yes,
Jersey. How corrupt our system is in New Jersey, including our judicial system. Any agency, one protester had brought out during his speech, all of the corrupt agencies and organizations and nonprofits, and how they're all webbed and weaved together, and how corrupt they really are. Do you agree with that?
oh, most certainly. Uh, we have right now in our state, right now, a one-party state. We have a few Republicans within it, but it's very insignificant. So right now we have mainly just the Democrats who are controlled right now within the legislature, both houses. You have the governor, obviously, and you have the Supreme Court. And this is horrific because you can't get any form of compromise or any form of really debate about how policies are done. Really, what you're happening right now is that you're just having things just thrown through, and without really any too much dissension or debate.
Well, even if you looked at our voting, uh, our voting sheets, there weren't very many Republicans that came out, or anybody, even independents, to even go against the Democrats. So we had some towns where it was all blue. There was actually no red on the other side, or anybody to go against them, which was pretty odd. In a lot of different towns here, we saw that happen. There's no one to go against them, and that is very crucial on how the state is still corrupt, on how they can get things through like that. What was it that you felt um, was the best part of your day there?
My favorite part of the day was the march itself, walking around Trenton, really letting the people know of the capital that her citizens of New Jersey are not happy, and we are more than happy to hold you guys accountable, because at the very end of the day, it is the legislators and the governors who are beholden to the constituents, which are the citizens. We're the ones who put them in office.
Absolutely.
We should be the ones that are saying, you know what, guys, shape up, or please kindly grab your stuff and leave, because you are not listening to the will of the people.
Absolutely. Now, also, you went with yellow vest, and can you tell us a little bit about the yellow vest that were handed out while you were there?
Certainly. When at the march, you had a gentleman by the name of R.J. Bermudez. He actually was one of the organizers, and he was actually handing. I think he was actually selling these, and it was a caricature of Governor Murphy, and it said "over and through in 22." So we're trying to get him out earlier, due to right now there is a recall movement right now, and also there is a strong push to flip the entire legislature, which is happening in November. Every seat in the Assembly and every seat in the Senate are up to vote.
And you're absolutely correct about that. We have the family rights movement, who I'm very heavily involved with, that had asked me to step up for that assembly, and I just might. We'll see how that goes, because I'm not too thrilled with the government here in New Jersey. But so, what did you speak about at this protest?
The one thing I was talking about was really the degradation of education, and how when we bring our children to school, they aren't being educated anymore. Nowadays, what they're dealing with is really a very heavy version of indoctrination. You're not allowed to question what happens within the school. You're not allowed to really debate if something is right or wrong. And what happens is that when it comes into the school environment, it's a very hostile environment. Children are normally given fear tactics. Like, for instance, let's say you're doing something when it comes to health programs. Like, for instance, you're learning about how your body works. They'll be like, oh, don't do this or else something bad's going to happen to you, instead of explaining, this is what happens when you use X and Y. And you better, the best way to do these things is to introduce this to make sure your health is best. Instead, they're like, this is not going to be good for you, and you should never use this, without giving it really any explanation.
Let's explain your part in this, on what you do, or what you went to school for, so people know that.
Okay, yeah. So I went to Middlesex County College, and I actually graduated there with an associate's degree in education. One of my studies was I had to go to an elementary school, which was a fourth grade classroom, and had to understand how the classroom operated. While I was in there, I actually got my first real ruled example of Common Core, how it works, and really how it's very non-functional to both the children and the teachers that deal with this.
So what did you speak about at the protest? What was your main goal there?
My main goal there was to really inform the members and the members of the Yellow Vest movement and everybody who was there, to really understand that what the state is doing and what education community is currently doing is really harming our children, which at the very end of the day is the next generation of people who are going to basically run things. And if we don't have a proper education system, our children are going to be inheriting everything without having any basic knowledge of how everything works.
Are you guys still there?
Yeah.
Okay. Earlier on, you were going to give us the breakdown on, what was it again? I can't remember what it was, but I really wanted to hear it.
Oh yeah. Earlier I was actually talking about the history of Pearson. Now,
Yeah.
Pearson is the actual company that creates Common Core, and it's also the company that owns the park, which is the standardized test that is connected with the park system. Now, when it comes to Park is a British company that deals with all educational publication materials. Uh, Pearson also has a very strong connection within the education community and the regular book publishing and regular media publishing when it comes to educational material. So you, for the most part, when it comes to going to school, uh, either university, college, high school, basic education, a lot of that is going to be under Pearson. So what's happening is with these materials, you're not getting a round knowledge of everything when everything's coming from one source. So, for instance, some of the companies that Pearson actually owns have some type of connection with are, for instance, Simon and Schuster, Prentice Hall,
Publishing
TJ
company.
Books,
Text publishing.
publishing company. Yeah, they also deal with things like Random House,
Mhm.
Penguin Books. A lot of these books companies that you look at any book wall, go to a library, go to a bookstore, and you're most likely going to see them. Pearson has some type of control over what is published.
Yeah, I remember that from when I was in school. It was either Pearson or one other company, but it was always those two.
Nah.
And if you're lucky or unlucky, depending on the class, it would be the professor who was the author of the book. But if it's not the professor, it's usually Pearson. And that's a very big concern because your children are when they go into these classrooms with these books, they're not getting the high quality of education that you would require, that you would assume that you'd be getting in the schools. If I go to a school, I would hope that I'm learning everything I could possibly learn, and maybe even more. Where here you have an environment where that's not the case whatsoever. You're being told what you should know and not what should be, expanded upon.
Well, it seems like they're aiming for the lowest common denominator. How simplistic can they make it?
Yeah, definitely. One study I remember reading was that when it comes to the implementation, excuse me, of Common Core, we're seeing a somewhere in the ballpark of 70% of a drop when it comes to college prep and test results.
Holy cow.
Um,
That's enormous.
it is, and one thing I remember talking with some of my professors was when Common Core and also in a more of a lesser extent, No Child Left Behind, was the changing of how tests are done. Now, the way are done now is that they're considered high stakes tests. So, you go through all your classes, and at the end of the end of the semester or the end of the year, you have to take this final exam. Now, this final exam, if you do not pass it in many cases, you can fail the class. It doesn't matter if you got straight A's throughout the entire course. If you fail that one test, you're most likely going to be failing the class altogether, which makes no sense. What it was when it came to tests was it was actually called diagnostic. So it gave you kind of a benchmark of where you needed to be, but it really didn't affect actually your score or grades at the end of the day.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Well, usually when any of the testing was done like that, it was for a state level in order for it to be sent in on an observation of how our students are doing. And that's what that is for. Not for a grade at the school at all. Anything to do with the school. It shouldn't even be connected.
Yeah. So now what we have now is that we actually have it so that if let's say a teacher is not performing the way that they want the students to perform, teachers can actually be fired for a low performing class. even though it would not be the fault of the teacher, it'd actually be the fault of the curriculum itself.
Correct.
Um, Another thing that's actually kind of concerning when it comes to the education system as a whole is the way we're actually teaching this education. Like, for instance, how math is done, how language arts is done. It's a whole bunch of more bells and whistles that really doesn't need to be. Um, and it's just, I don't understand it. Like, for instance, let's say we're doing a simple multiplication equation. 12 times 12 is 144. That's basic math. When it comes to Common Core, what you have to do is you have to break down every number. So how many, ones can go into 2? Well, 2, obviously, so you put 2 down there. And after that, you see how many 10s can go into 1. 1, obviously. So they'll just break down every single piece. And in a Common Core equation, if you do not point out every single point within this equation, you're going to get the question wrong, even though you have the answer directly right and you actually have the proper math.
I had Dan show me an example of a Common Core math problem because I'm old. I'm in my 50s. I don't know much about this Common Core thing, so I would like to know. He showed me, my jaw dropped. I'm like, how much can you overcomplicate a very simple addition problem to the point where it doesn't even look like math anymore? It looks like abstract art.
And then why are we using that system of math instead of using one that we know that works? Why it might be simplistic, but when we're talking about a child's mind, they absorb you and they mimic simplistic things, and it's more about routine and brain function. Have you ever watched a savant person play piano? If you actually looked at their brain while they're playing piano, it's about communication between both hemispheres of their brain, and their motor functions are working. So really, it's not just about playing the piano, it's about your motor functions and the routine. And they learn that. Things in China, like they use the abacus to teach their children, and through that motor function of moving their fingers and moving that abacus around, they're able to do multiple digit multiplication in their head by following those same movements with their fingers, that motor function. It's about relating motor function with math. And when you talk to other savants, like the human calculator, he doesn't actually see numbers. He sees things like images and things like that.
Yeah.
Why are we using a system of math that is built to confuse the child instead of systems of math that we've seen that
we know work?
That work. I don't know.
I could totally attest to that. That's actually what happened within my studies when I was in that elementary school. I actually walked in and I actually had to do 30 hours of in-class studies. So I actually had to go into a class, had to get it signed off by the teacher, who was actually supervising me. And I actually happened to walk in during a math session. While I was there, they were learning, I think it was binomials. While I was there, and I was actually helping one of the students who actually raised their hand, I walked over and I looked at this, and shortly afterwards I had to walk to the teacher and say, I can't do this. The teacher was really surprised. Like, what do you mean you can't do this? I went, I've never learned Common Core math. Actually, the Common Core, the math I was actually taking within the college was basic Chicago math, which is stuff I've learned Chicago math, which is have you ever, what I think it was called Everything Mathematics. I think that's what the curriculum's called. They're completely incompatible with one another. It's like speaking, let's say you're speaking Mandarin to one person, and then you're trying to translate it into Spanish. They just don't work with one another unless you have a translator between the two. It's very unintelligible, and it's very hard to teach a child if your professors and your teachers have no idea how the system actually works on itself. Another thing that was kind of interesting with Common Core and the park is when it comes to, is actually the park itself, which is the standardized test that is actually designed with the Common Core. Let's say you have a child that fails that test. Okay. First of all, the school district actually has to pay for Common Core and the park each year. Each year, it's a revised edition, so it's a new edition. You can't use the old materials from the previous year. They have to buy the new program. So let's say you have a child that fails the park. Now the school has to pay for the test again. It's a once-use test. You can't just buy one test and it happens multiple times. So you constantly have to rebuy this program. So what's really happening is that these schools are actually being taken advantage of by Pearson and by the Board of Education, which allows this to happen.
And you want to know what? Let me throw out a statistic for you. If you look at the national budget of 2017, you do know that it is actually your local government that pays the most for the schooling. Your state pays about $200 billion in 2017, and then your federal paid like none. It was
Well,
close to
when it comes to Common Core, also, if you look across the states, the first thing they give you is your supply list. With your supply list, every store has it all lined up because they know everybody's got to buy the same thing no matter what. So now corporate is lining everything up for you that you have to buy for your child, which comes like at least $50 in supplies, maybe more. And every store has them all lined up in little bins now because they know on that list there's about 25 things that you have to have on that first week of school, and they're all lined up for you to buy them now. So Common Core, here we go corporate money. They're making money off of people, and both ways. They're making money off the people, and we have a lot of places now that are setting up book bags with they're giving them to people because some parents can't afford all this stuff. So they're getting donations and handing them out to the kids in the beginning of school. And donating them because it's a lot if you have 2 or 3 children, to have to buy all this stuff to go to school. So there it starts from day one on corporate, no matter what. And this is what we're talking about. Like all of this stuff now that should have to be already involved in these schools because of the amount of money, and it's not. And Common Core took it over, and that's part of it. Right there is part of it. There's your corporate right from day one.
Imagine if we took that $800 billion that we spend on war and transferred it from federal paying $800 billion on schooling. Imagine how good America
There's no
would be.
excuse for us not to have it. There's no excuse for us not to have it. None at all. There is no excuse for us not to have money. Nothing. None.
Well, I think this is one of the major reasons why you have to really focus on the school boards. Most people, when they look at when it comes to the elections, most people don't even really think bat an eye to what the school board does. But school board really does make a humongous effect on what your students, what your children are really going to learn. And if you don't focus on that, then you're really kind of giving our children the short end of the stick, unfortunately.
All right, guys, I just Googled it. The United States rates 38th is 38th place out of 71 countries in math and science. 38th.
Wow.
Out of 71 countries, we suck.
It reminds me of that one speech of going, why is America great? When we're falling behind in everything, what makes America even great anymore?
We were never great.
Well, it's draining the swamp. That's, we're a swamp right now. I mean, this is it. This is why everybody's standing up. It's our turn. This is what Yellow Vest is about. Voicing the corruption, voicing the human abuse, This is human abuse. Our children should be educated. There's no excuse for it.
Well, and if you think, future problems, like math is problem solving, right? Let's say we're embraced with a really hard problem that us as a species needs to solve. When we're dumbing down all of our kids and giving them Common Core and making it hard for them to solve problems or understand how to solve problems, how are they going to solve that? How are we as a species going to try to even solve that problem? Are we going to wait for the government to do it? Are we going to wait for imagine the chances of having a savant child is severe increased, 100-fold, or a genius children and the saviors of people is really smart individuals is increased when we get rid of those boundaries on our children, because our children are our future, whether we like it or not. How we teach them and how we build them up to be better versions of us is how we solve most of our problems in this world.
Well, we have homeschoolers, and this is the reason why.
I homeschooled my kids finally.
We have homeschoolers, and this is why.
Yeah.
Well,
Homeschoolers.
That right now they're actually making it so that homeschooling is considered child abuse.
Yes,
And
which is totally ridiculous.
I honestly, I think homeschooling is actually a very good option. That's actually one thing I never tacked on in the speech, but I'm really for school choice, because remember, we're paying for this quality of education through our taxes. If we don't
That's
believe
right.
that our children
Right.
are getting the highest quality
That's
education, we should be able to pull our money from that taxes and be able to reallocate that money to the system that will, and that many cases will be homeschooling, or even in some cases a private school, which will have the resources available to teach these children. Because we're looking at like places, and for instance, in New Jersey, we have places like Newark, Camden, Jersey City, Kearney, which are having failing education systems
Yes.
because of the disappropriate allocation of funds.
Yes.
And what you're seeing with this is that the big reason why I'm really big on education is because education will, at the very end, affect how a community runs. If you look at places like I was saying, Newark, Jersey City, Kearney, you're going to see a high level of crime or other negative aspects, because we don't have a place for our children to feel safe, or be able to learn basic skills, or be able to understand how things actually work.
Now you just pointed that out. Now, did you hear what he just said? See, that's the whole plan. Okay, that's the plan, though, because then what it does is it sets up a whole nother system that makes money, which would be the schools for the children that are bad at school, and now there's the bad kids school, and then you need the yellow
Right.
bus system set up.
Oh my
So
God,
not
let
only
me
that,
just
now we
start
have
there.
then we're going to bring in medicine on the children. There's the big pharma, ding ding. Now the state will pay more money for that bad child. Now there's a program set up, and that program has to be filled. So now that classroom needs 30 children. Now they'll get those 30 children, and they're
more,
paid.
actually.
They are. I'm just saying that this is an example. And now we need 30 in there. Even though 30 may not really qualify as bad, we'll make them qualify as bad. And now we have to fill that. Oh, now they're bad in there. Oh, now they have to go to the judge for a detention center. Now let's go send them to the judge, and they go in the detention center. Now makes money. There's a whole nother system right there. There's your jail system. Here, that's how it goes. And that's how the money flows. And that's the corrupt system from the start of education. There it is. So how do you fix that? It's not a fix. It's a system to run on money. And that's all there is. Not under anything that has to do with you being a human and anyone caring about your education. It's not a care about your education. It's a care about the system and how it's going to work to keep the system moving. And that's how it goes. That's just it.
I honestly, I believe that we got to make our schools more competitive with one another, because right now what we have is it's much more feeling based and less fact based. Like, for instance, we talk about how and I don't mean to really jump in, really poke the bear when it comes to this, actually a little bit, but we talk about how biology works, and yet the uh, we have the universities which are saying that's not exactly how that works, even though they don't even explain how the whole system actually works, even though we already have a biological and scientific system that is been basically flushed out to near perfection for over 100 years.
Oh, that's where statistic against statistic. For one, there is another to debunk it. So therefore,
Yes, that's the
actually,
bending.
right. Therefore, actually, this is where we bring in a lot of things that we're also where the corruptness comes in. It doesn't matter if it's correct or not. The EPA or whoever, whichever agency you want to put it through, is going to pass it through because they're corrupt. They're going to pass it through because that college said it, and that college is right next door to them here, and they're putting it all through. It doesn't matter. They're saying it doesn't matter.
That's
Straight up,
that's
it
actually
doesn't
one of the
matter.
that's actually one of the reasons why I didn't finish my
Yes.
4 year. I didn't finish my 4 year because I remember one thing I remember in school was do what works for your wallet. Now, I know that sounds extremely greedy when you think about it, but look at it. You had to be able to learn money management. What is going to be the best
Mhm.
for you? What's the best investment?
Mhm.
If a school is not giving you the investment you want, then there is no reason that you should be investing in that school whatsoever. And that's what's
That's
happening
right.
right now with all these donors within the universities. You have
Mhm.
these mega donors within these universities who are really paying the deans, paying the superintendents, paying the high level administration. And what's happening is that they are actually influencing what the environment of those schools and
Right.
universities are.
Exactly.
They are
That's
not
so
they're not meant for collegiate
absolutely.
studies anymore. They're meant
No.
for they're really meant for, in the words of George Carlin, obedient workers.
Right.
This is a topic I am extremely passionate about. And remember, at the very end of the day, when it comes to education, we're doing this for our children. It doesn't matter how
Mhm.
we feel about this. It's what is the best for our children. What is the best
Mhm.
possible result that we can get for our children so that we can have the best possible result for the
Exactly.
human race as a whole.
And if your child is good at school, um and then like acts out a little bit or whatever, then they need medicine. Everything's
Yeah.
ADHD, they need medicine. What do you need medicine for?
Oh, and I lived through that too. Like from somebody who it started with the school for me.
Right.
I was a little hyper in class. I talked out of turn. I didn't raise my hand. So all of a sudden I'm depressed and have ADD. They give me Ritalin and Zoloft in third grade, and
Wow.
I got tested, and this person, like an educational consultant, did an exam, and they're like, "There's no way your kid has ADD." So, oh well, he must have bipolar then. Yeah, and it's just pills, pills, pills for like
Yeah.
20
Yeah, I had
Yeah.
years.
to.
You
Yeah.
needed
Big pharma.
special
Yeah.
schools, like
There you go.
treatment centers, jail,
Right.
like everything.
There it is.
And
There's the
IEP and
system.
the meetings
There's the money
every
right there. There it is.
semester.
Follow
Yeah.
that money trail. See where
Yeah,
it goes.
yeah.
There's the money trail.
I was actually diagnosed ADHD when I was in first grade, and while I was there, I actually had to go through a neurologist, and I went through one for
Mhm.
Oh,
about 18 years. Um, and I was on, the big name medicine, Ritalin, Concerta, things like that. And
Mm.
what happened was, and let me explain how these medicines work for people who are not familiar with these things.
Mhm.
So in your brain, you have these things called neurotransmitters. What
Mhm.
Ritalin does, that it actually is methamphetamine. Yes, we're talking actual methamphetamines put into your brain.
Mm-hmm.
You know the stuff that's illegal on the streets. That's basically what you're taking for your. That's what your children are taking
Mm-hmm.
with when it comes to Ritalin and Adderall and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And it affects the dopamine reactions within it. So what
Mm-hmm.
happens, and I actually learned this myself because after a while, I actually personally went cold turkey off this after being exposed to it for 18 years. What happens when you get off this medication after you're exposed to it for many years is that you'll actually deal with a humongous neurological and psychological crash. Your body is literally high all the time because you're on the medication. So you're going to be dealing with things like depression, bipolar disorder, potentially even schizophrenia, because your body's just so used and adapted to it that it literally craves it. I remember having shakes because of how bad this got. And if you're
Mm-hmm.
wondering why your children are the way they are when it comes to, acting out and, screaming and panicking and stuff like that, it's because what's happening is that we're putting these children on medication and it's really
Mm-hmm.
messing up their psyche.
Absolutely.
It's a travesty.
Yes.
It's,
Yes.
it's
And it's usually the school system that says your child needs medicine.
yeah,
Okay?
yeah, exactly.
So,
Exactly. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
yeah, that's basically where it starts at
It, it,
school. Your
it,
child needs medicine, and then the school calls the shots, and the doctor agrees, and that's how it starts.
it's a really a pipeline. To be honest, it's a very very well constructed pipeline that's supposed to really
Yes.
put a lot of pressure on the parent. Now the parent's
Yes.
already having pressures as it is being
Yes.
a parent. It's very stressful
Yes.
being a parent. I'm not I don't have any children myself, but I can totally sympathize for all of the mothers and fathers out there
Mhm.
who are dealing with the normal struggles of work and then childcare. Now you have the school districts that saying, I don't know, your child's not performing very well, or I don't know, that children is speaking out of turn. I don't know, that child is not acting the way they should. Where first of all, I go into the idea children are children. They're going to be attitude turn from time to time. That's just how they are.
Mhm.
Not because they have a mental disorder in many cases. Actually,
Mm-mm.
ADHD is one of the most overly diagnosed learning disabilities that have been around the last 20 years. I personally actually do have the condition. I actually have been tested, so I can tell you this as a person who has actually been living with this as that is actually a real thing. But what's happening is that now we know there's money to be made when it comes to these
Mm.
prescriptions, and
Absolutely.
isn't it funny that now we have big pharma and insurance companies now here
Mhm.
who want these things to be prescribed because what happens? Well,
Mhm.
they get a little bit of incentive. They'll
Mhm.
get a little extra money because each time they prescribe something, that means they have another person
Mhm.
who's hooked on these drugs. And a lot of times, unfortunately, children who are given these medicines, if they're taken off, if they're not given the proper treatment to wean them
Mm-mm.
off,
No, they're
they
not.
eventually may
You're
have to go
correct.
on to harder stuff eventually, unfortunately.
Not only that,
And
but a lot are not monitored properly.
Of
You're
course.
supposed to have your heart monitored. You're supposed to have everything. Your food intake monitored, your water intake
They don't do any
monitored,
of that.
and if you
I can
nothing,
guarantee they don't
they
do
do
any of that.
not monitor correctly at all.
and
No.
two, like don't
Uh-oh.
just
There's an echo.
to even be on a medication at that age is three more doctors. That's all those copays going to the insurance companies too. Like so that's a few
I
$100s a
had
month.
a
There's a
psychiatrist
mon-
diagnose my son with attention deficit disorder in 15 minutes.
mm.
That,
He never met him
Mhm.
before.
Yeah.
15 minutes. Oh, he has ADD. I was like, really? How do you know that? Oh, I know.
Mhm.
Well, I'll be damned.
yeah,
And then she put him on the Ritalin and the couple other things. By the time he was 16, he said, the hell with this bullshit. I'm not taking these pills anymore. He quit it cold turkey. He's doing great.
That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
But, as a
It's
single
really awesome.
mom, you've got the school down your throat
Hmm.
saying your kid is hyperactive. My kid
Absolutely.
is bored. My kid is like
Hmm.
every other kid in that goddamn class. They are bored out of their
Hmm.
minds. Yeah, they're going
Yeah.
to be hyperactive.
I'm really not surprised that I could totally understand. I was actually one of these children who would always look out the window. It's like
Mm-hmm.
it's a nice, beautiful, wonderful day outside. I wish we could do something outside. I'm inside this room with 30 other
Right.
classmates looking at the front of the room, and we're all doing the exact same thing over again. Even though in the educational community we have a variety of different learning styles. Some people are kinesthetic, which means they're good with their hands. Some people are good with auditory, which means they're good with their ears. Some people
Absolutely.
are tactile, so they actually have to
Right.
touch things. So why in the world are we doing this one size fits all education system when we have such a diverse ways of learning?
Right.
And that's exactly what we were like, where again, that's human abuse. You're not letting the human be human in their way. Okay, that has to do with a lot of what we're bringing up on the corruption, throughout the world. You know, is humanity. It's been
Well,
taken
I've
away.
believed for
You
a
know,
very long time that our educational system is really just a training program for our work system.
Yeah.
They're teaching you how to be at a certain place at a certain time, do what you're told, do not question, and go through your paces.
and also we have the elite. I'm going to bring this up because it's in the news, which is the elites paying for their children to get into college. So therefore, like we were saying before, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you're middle class. It doesn't matter. Okay, and it doesn't matter if you're an elite. Still taking the same education, failing, and then getting to the level that you need. Mommy and daddy are paying for you to get in. So there you go. Boom. You
Right.
now have scientists that can't even read.
Right.
Okay, how's that happening? And then their work is lobbied to get pushed through. And then it's not even correct. Look at the Green Deal. Oh, geez. All right, let's look at it. Who wrote it? Where's it coming from? This is what we're talking about. Okay, we have a lot of stuff going on in corruption all the way to the top, all the way around us. And this is how it's starting right here. Exactly what Alex just said. Through our own system from educating our children from the beginning, which right there, it just shows you what they're doing to us as humans. And this is exactly what we've all
It's a
been bringing out
conditioning
through.
system.
Well, one thing I wanted to
Absolutely.
One thing I really wanted to meet, Matt, I wanted to really fact check is the idea that the Green New Deal is a new concept. Now, the Green New Deal, yes, it was recently brought up in the House and the Senate, but the Green New Deal actually originated, I believe, in 2012 with the Green Party, and then it was just kind of a passe, didn't do anything, and then it was brought up again in 2016, Green Party again, and eventually it brought itself up. Oh, we have new freshman legislators that they thought the idea was interesting, so they introduced it to Congress, and that's how things are done sometimes. Is that it's not initially a point-to-point movement that is done. Eventually, it's just somebody. Oh, I like the idea, and I'm not going to introduce it.
And we'll see who wants to bite it and go for it. That kind of thing goes on. So we're right now with the Yellow Vest TV. We're interviewing Alex Spielman, who was at the protest in New Jersey, which there were over 500 protesters that showed up. Yellow Vest put out one of the biggest protests in the United States right now. That was actually against the system in New Jersey. And each person that stood up during this protest had their own part in this. We had all different speakers who stood up and spoke. Could you explain a couple of the other speakers what they were speaking about, Alex?
Sure. A lot of the speakers there were members of the 2A community. For people who are not familiar with 2A, 2A is a reference to the Second Amendment, which has to do with gun rights. Right now, what they're doing is they're actually limiting the number of rounds, the number of firearms you're allowed to use, and using terms such as assault rifle or military style weapon. Which, when it comes to those, there's no such thing as an assault rifle when it comes to what a classification of a gun. Those things would be like carbine, firearm, rifle, pistol, things like that. But an assault rifle, it's a verb. That's actually grammatically incorrect. So that was a major crux of a lot of the things that were there. Another thing was we were talking about how they're just pushing taxes left and right. You have the biggest number of people who would be helping with the budget were the millionaires and the people who are doing very well in life. Well, a lot of those people now they're looking at all these taxes. They're like, you know what? I'm leaving. And so now what's happening is that this being pushed on the regular citizens who are just kind of making through life. Most of the time scraping by paycheck to paycheck, and they just can't afford it anymore. And nowadays, they're adding more taxes, than we could possibly imagine.
Ask them if I may read them something.
Dan wants to read something if it's all right with you guys.
Sure.
Yeah.
For what men say is that if I am really just and am not also thought just profit, there is none. But the pain and loss, on the other hand, are unmistakable. But if through just unjust I acquire the reputation of justice, a heavenly life is promised to me. Since then, as philosophers prove, appearance tyrannizes over truth, and is lord of happiness. To appearance I must devote myself. I will describe around me a picture and shadow of virtue, to be the vestibule and exterior of my house. Behind I will trail the subtle and crafty fox, as Archelaus, greatest of sages, recommends. But I hear some one exclaiming that the concealment of wickedness is often difficult, to which I answer, nothing great is easy. Nevertheless, the argument indicates this: if we would be happy, to be the path along which we should proceed, with a view of concealment, we will establish secret brotherhoods and political clubs. And there are professors of rhetoric who teach the art of persuading courts and assemblies. And so, partly by persuasion and partly by force, I shall make unlawful gains, and not be punished. Still I hear a voice saying that the gods cannot be deceived, neither can they be compelled. But what if there are no gods, or suppose them to have no care of human things? Why in either case should we mind about concealment? And even if there are gods, and they do care about us, yet we know of them only from tradition and the genealogies of the poets. And these are the very persons who say that they may be influenced and turned by sacrifices and soothing entries, and by offerings. Let us be consistent then, and believe both or neither. If the poets speak truly, why then we had better be unjust, and offer of the fruits of injustice. For if we are just, although we may escape the vengeance of heaven, we shall lose the gains of injustice. But if we are unjust, we shall keep the gains. And by our sinning and praying and sinning, the gods will be perpetuated, and we shall not be punished. But there is a world below in which either we or our posterity will suffer for our unjust deeds. Yes, my friend, will be the reflection. But there are mysteries and atoning deities, and these have great power. That is what mighty cities declare, and the children of gods, who were their poets and prophets, bear a like testimony, which is from Plato in Book 2 of his book on what is it? The Republic. That was written by Plato of Plato's Republic. That was an excerpt out of there. And if we're looking at that, doesn't that literally explain the problem we are in today, where they conceal and they try to make money? That is the very action of injustice. Our government, by its very action and by its concealment of pertinent facts, by its literal it defines injustice within Socrates, Plato's, and Aristotle's minds, which they've talked about thousands of years ago. Our government is reenacting the very definition of
what we were warned about.
injustice.
Mm-hmm.
You know that if I could quote Benjamin Franklin, one of his most quotable lines was, "Any society that would give up a little liberty to gain a little security would deserve neither and lose both."
Mm-hmm.
And so
I
basically, what
remember
he's
that one.
saying, what?
Oh, I said
So
I remember that one. That's a good one.
basically, what he's saying when it comes to that quote is that a, if a government is more focused on safety than they're more focused on security than they are of the individual freedoms and liberties of the people. What's going to happen eventually is that the government will eventually take total control, and there will be no liberties whatsoever.
Mm-hmm.
And you've seen that in a lot of locations where totalitarian regimes would eventually arise.
We gotta stop that.
Which has actually been what caused the fall of most empires. If we actually look back in history, we'll notice that, like, let's take the Egyptians, for example. The Egyptians were attacked by an external force. They were doing great, right? They had a little rebellion in their transition periods because they weren't given an afterlife. But in their first age and their second age, they were doing great. But then they were invaded by the Assyrians. So after they're attacked by an external force, they start spending all of their money. They traded, uh, you know, for security. And when they started spending all their money on security, that shortly after is when you see the fall of Egypt. And you see it in multiple, not just Egypt, you see it in multiple other great civilizations in the past. What America, and technically, if you want to take this into a bigger consideration, is when a state government is left alone for a period of time, like America, where we're on an island and we haven't been attacked. But then we are attacked, and then we started spending all of our money on war. What is so different? And why are we so immune to collapsing? Why can't our government collapse too? And when I ask that question, most people, they don't really think about it. Why? Because we're American. Like, what makes us invulnerable to the mistakes of the past?
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's one of the things I'm actually uh, really focused on, is that exactly what Common Core was actually done. It was actually made to destroy the fabric of uh, society as it is. Education is, if not the keystone, definitely an essential cornerstone of how a society and a civilization runs. And if you cripple that, well, how exactly are you going to expect your existence to, exist for foreseeable future? That's
Well,
never going to
between
occur.
destroying that and the nuclear family, they've got it down pretty pat, hey?
Yeah, yeah. That's another thing I've noticed, is that you're not allowed to address people as, mother and father in some places, as a
What?
parent one and parent two,
Oh
because
my God.
it's considered disrespectful to the families that are non-traditional.
Oh
Actually,
my God.
in fact, in California, if I remember correctly, it is illegal to misgender somebody, and I think there's a fine, and I'm not sure.
You got. Oh man.
So that means that
We're in cuckoo
we,
land.
exactly, that's what's happening with this. That's exactly what I mean when it comes to, okay. Let's say, for instance, you go to Princeton University. In there, they will teach that there are I forgot the actual number. I believe it was 73 different genders. Um,
What?
exactly. I am I believe in science. I believe that there are two unique genders, male, female, and they both have their own respective unique features to how to deal with the procreation and the perpetuation of society. Um, Apparently, that's not what science says. But here's the funny thing: that's the irony of how the education system works. Apparently, you can be for science when it comes to, say, climate change, and but you can't be for science when it comes to gender studies. For instance, I'm not a big fan of how climate science works because it doesn't incorporate things like, for instance, how the Earth has a tilt, a wobble, and it is bombarded by cosmic and solar radiation. That is a major factor of how these things will affect the climate of the Earth. But majority of the time, they will teach you, oh, it's carbon dioxide and it's methane, and they will affect everything. Yes, they do have an effect, but it's relatively minuscule when you actually count to all the other cosmic effects that we have, which is never taught in school for the most part.
Well, that's why all their climate change models are off, and they always go every year. They say it's 5 times faster.
Well, it,
Because they
yeah,
don't put in all, when we're talking about math, they don't put in all the variables like you just mentioned. There's a lot more variables than what they're adding into their algorithms.
I find it very interesting because if I remember correctly, with Al Gore, he's like, "Oh, will be gone within the year 2000 or something like that, or 2012." Um, Here's the thing: not much has changed. Actually, we're seeing that the ice in the North, in the Arctic, and the Antarctic are actually expanding right now. We're seeing that the ozone layer is recovering, and that's because these all deal with cycles. They're not something that you just can randomly say is going to exist. They will potentially happen, but it's within a certain cycle.
Right. There. All I know is that we don't know half of a lot of the stuff that they do. So I don't know.
Well, we also have protests that's going on tomorrow, and that's in Ohio. We have Jeremy Dieter that's taking out the American Concords or the American Patriots tomorrow. And I believe it's American Concords that's going to be in Ohio tomorrow. And we have some write-ups for him, and we've been working with Jeremy with helping him out, and for Yellow Vest to back them up. And they have a lot of issues going on also. So what we are finding is we are getting a yellow wave, which is amazing. It is so taken off in America now, and we're glad that New Jersey had really kicked it off with about 500 people. That was so awesome. And we're hoping that it grows and it gets bigger and bigger as it goes on, so we can finally make a difference and bust through as people. And that's what's happening global right now. We are bringing it global through Yellow Vest TV. We have anything you possibly need to know about Yellow Vest across the globe. We have a hub here that we brought everybody into. So we're going to wrap this up right now, I guess, guys. What I'm going to say is thank you, Alex, for being here, and thank you for standing up in New Jersey.
Thank you very much for having me.
And
I live and breathe New Jersey, and I would fight to my dying breath to make sure that my home state is there for the next generation.
And we
Yeah.
appreciate that. And we appreciate the Yellow Vest out there, buddy. And Yellow Vest New Jersey will grow. We promise that. They showed up 500 strong. That's a start. That's a very strong start. And we're hoping to bring it through everywhere and to organize and help them all the groups. We'll have to tell you, there were cell groups that organized, which was awesome. Okay, that's something that we have to bring up. Cell groups from each different group organized and went in as Yellow Vest, and that is amazing. And it's just right now we are helping anywhere we can through Yellow Vest with anyone that needs to get their little cell group with the next cell group. And to move on against the corruption on what's really happening out here. And with that, this up right now. And thank you so much for watching Yellow Vest.
Yeah, and for anyone watching, I'm gonna be streaming these speakers from the event yesterday. Or if you're watching this tomorrow, tune in for the rest of it, and we're gonna try and show you some of what was said yesterday in New Jersey. And thank you guys.
Thank you all.
Thank you all.
If I may, if you guys are interested, I actually have my own live stream called Contentable Thoughts. So if you're interested, pop by. And thanks again for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Alex. Thank you, buddy.
Okay, now to go in here. I want to get rid
times on my show and on my rants that the political elite who were inside that building protected by guns work every day to take the guns away from us. Every day. If you're looking through the windows, we know you have your bodyguards and your state police. And we the people, they don't give a shit about us. What do they give a shit about? Criminals and illegal aliens. They want to pander to their base, all for votes. So we have the political class as the first tier, the enlightened and the entitled. And then we have the criminals and we have the illegals that are next. And then we, the people, the law-abiding, tax-paying citizens, pay every day. And every day they're trying to oppress us and suppress us. And they sit in these halls and they laugh their asses off because they could give a shit about us. We need 100,000 people out here. We need to show our unity. Rob said this in November. All 80 seats are up for election. It's time to send a message. Get involved at the grassroots level. People are not here today because they're afraid to show up. Our founding fathers are rolling over in their graves. Someone has to take a stand. And us people in this alcove freezing our asses off right now, we're here to take a stand. I've had We have to let our voices be heard. The political elites can only push us so far. I don't want to hear any excuses. Everyone needs to get activated and motivated and talk to your friends and your neighbors. It's not just about guns. It's about this taxation on everything. Again, the air tax is going to be next. Unity and activism is key in this state, and we have to get energized. Other states have done it. Colorado had a successful recall campaign that they got rid of a few senators. We could do the same thing here, but we have to get motivated. We have to fight together. The infighting in the 2A groups pisses me off, okay? Everybody needs to stand up to the plate and work together.
Join or die.
Join or die.
Yeah.
Live free or die. So many people I see here, I see the same faces all the time. And I want to thank you all. True patriots, men and women alike. We're here all the time. But enough is enough. We have to take a stand. I see all of these state police walking around with their guns. Who are they protecting? They're not protecting us. They're protecting the political elites, and they're protecting their pensions. Let's face it. There's a lot of good cops out there that say and think the same things we do, but they have to whisper it. They can't say it out loud. They'll end up directing traffic in Camden for the next 15 years. And who wants to do that? So without further ado, Rob is going to tell me who I'm going to bring up next, but I want to thank all of you, and we're going to plan another rally. I'd like to shut a resort town down for a weekend. So let's hit everybody in the pocketbook like they hit us in the pocketbook in the wallet 24/7. There's not a day that goes by I don't read the news where something else is being taxed.
Camp out around Murphy's Mansion.
Where is Joe Ferrandino? Come on up, Joe. Thank you all for being here. Great job. Great job, Maureen. Thank you. You know, we have a couple of organizations in this state that are fighting every day, and I'm hoping everybody in this alcove or the annex here are on board. Obviously, we know the NRA is backing our Magban case, and they're also backing the Rogers case that's hopefully going to get granted cert by the U.S. Supreme Court. We'll know April 21st or early May. So we have the NRA there. We have the ANJRPC, which I'm the executive vice president of. That's the state NRA. We also have the Cheeseman-Gillard case, which is self-funded. It's We the People. I'm wrong. It's Restore Carry-NJ. Restore Carry-NJ. Everybody here should donate. And then we have the third organization, the Coalition of New Jersey Firearms Owners, CNJFO. And their spokesman extraordinaire is here, Dave Rosenthal, who we call Rosie.
Rosie!
Thank you, Anthony. It's a pleasure being here this morning. You know, we're at the annex. Now, the annex is a very interesting term. Do all of you feel as if you've been annexed from society?
Yeah!
Are you tired of being pissed?
Yeah!
Well, it's time that we do something about it. All right? You got to join the coalition. You got to get on board with us. We're there to help everybody. Yay, Fire! We are strong. We are stronger with more numbers. We need your numbers. We are proud of everyone that is here today. Thank you, Anthony. Thank you, ANJRPC, Tony Simon, Joe Rulo, everybody that warmed you guys up. Maybe the sun will warm us up a little bit when we march on Trenton. I haven't gotten locked up today. Okay? The day is young. Okay, I may need a little bail money because, you know, they always go after the head on the ants. Okay, they always crush the heads first. So, you know, if you need a little bail money, let me know, okay? You got my back?
Yeah!
All right. Here's the thing. Because of what all of you have been able to do, and all of our brothers and sisters in this 2A fight, we've been able to donate thus far close to $17,000 of matching funds that you folks in this crowd helped come up with. So give yourselves a huge round of applause. $17,000 for Cheeseman-Gillard and for the Rogers case with ANJRPC. We are very proud to be a part of the amicus brief that's now before the Supreme Court. Imagine, New Jersey's going to be heard, hopefully, before the Supreme Court. I have my fingers crossed. I feel it in my bones that something good is going to come out of this. All right? Pray that we all get relief.
Yeah.
There are people right now on social media that are talking about the second coming of the Civil War. Okay? Some folks here are ready for it. I'm not going to say who, and I'm not going to point fingers. I don't have the Facebook likes or the rants that somebody else I know does. But I will say this. From deep in the stronghold of South Amboy, New Jersey, comes a 12-year-old kid that used to be able to buy a brick of 22s for $3.99 at Kmart on Route 18 in East Brunswick. That was 47 years ago. In 47 years, the incrementalism of what these people do to us is enough to get somebody like me with 2 heart attacks and 5 stents to stand here and march with you today.
Yeah!
There's a lot more people like me. The association is built on the backs of other volunteers just like me. And for all of you that are out there that support us, give yourselves a huge round of applause right now. Yeah! We are tired. We are pissed. We are fighting every damn day. If something is newsworthy, you let me know about it. I will pick it up and we will broadcast it. We will not be shut out on Facebook, on our website, or any other part of social media. We will not be put down. We will not be put to shame. We will not give an inch. And neither should any of you. You're damn straight they have. It's time we take back our own Second Amendment. It's time for people to take everything back. That's right. Because without the second, there isn't a first. And then everything goes like dominoes. All right? They got to start teaching civics in high school. Forget about this other problem that Daryl brought up. I want to see civics come back. Yeah. All right? I don't have day one of college, but I can figure out my civics from high school. I know right from wrong. I know what the laws are supposed to say. I know what the intent of the Second Amendment is. And I know guys like Jay Factor, I can take him about 29 minutes at a time. Then I got to put the thing on hold, get a cup of coffee, and suck the rest of the information in. Because that man's a computer on two legs. But I swear to God, we have to stay united. We cannot worry about what other people outside of our group thinks. We work with the state association. We work with the NRA ILA. We work with anybody that wants to work with us and not subvert us. Subverting us is subverting your rights, your Second Amendment rights, your First Amendment rights. Are we pissed at the taxes yet?
Yeah!
Pretty soon they're going to tax sunshine. We had to delay an event because we had a salt emergency. I'm sitting at home, it's 3 o'clock in the afternoon, I'm supposed to be at a hog hunt, the sun's out, the state highways are closed. For what? So they can raise our taxes and make more potholes. All right? Are we tired of being tired? That's Joe's line, right? That was my line before he said it when I got up there. Everybody's tired. But we're here and they're not. We have to bring the message back home. The message is we need to recall the son of a bitch.
Yeah!
Failing that, it's Murphy through in 22. Murphy through in 22. Murphy through in 22. Murphy through in 22. Thank you so much, everybody. God bless you. God bless the United States. Join CNJFO. 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 Facebook, website, CNJFO. And thank you for coming out here. For all those that have served in the military, we want to let you know your sacrifice has not been made in vain. We will fight here in America for what you fought overseas for. Freedom. Yeah! My deal is I don't like to make fun or call names. I want to move towards positive, progressive things to do. And when they say progressive, they got it all backwards. Okay? We're progressing backwards. All right? The issues that they fight for are leading us backwards, not forwards. We have to take our freedom and understand, like our founding fathers, that without it, we don't have anything. You're sacrificing your time and your money to come here today. Our forefathers sacrificed
their life, their liberty, and their sacred honor. So I don't want to hear, well, you know, I got to pay the mortgage and whatnot. The government that could give you anything can take away everything. Excuse me. The importance of those words need to be taken seriously. Right now, we've dodged a bullet with President Trump. He is not the answer. He was the backstop. Okay? We have a chance now to let our voices be heard. Like Tony said, you got to vote. You got to get other people out to vote. Also, know the enemy's tactics. Right now, they're pushing for progressives to come out and pose as Republicans because people vote party lines. Our government was never to be a self-cleaning oven. From the school board, where they teach your children socialism, to the town council, where they go along with this affirmative further free housing, fair housing. This is nothing what it seems to be. It's all a lie. Anything that a progressive has accused a conservative of, they are guilty. You need to understand how they work, their tactics. And don't reinvent the wheel. Take their tactics and turn it around on them. Just recently, over here in one of these buildings, they said that it's now important for your children to learn the virtues of the LGBT community. I got nothing against nobody. My religion forbids me to hate anyone. But as long as they're going to be teaching that in school, I think that we should go back to teaching our children civics, and that this country was founded on the Judeo-Christian worldview. They want what they want. We want what we want. Thank you very much. You all have a great day. Get home safely. If we could get 1 million people fired up like this, just imagine. Next speaker, George Tanis.
Friends, I am very, very proud and honored to be with you here today, marching against tyranny, marching. Do you guys hear me now? Yeah. Okay. I am very honored to be with you here today, marching against tyranny, against political manipulation from this administration, against more taxation in which we can no longer afford in the state, and against unfairness. But first, let me say this. Whether you're Republican or Democrat, whether you're independent or unaffiliated, we may not agree on the same issues, from politics to religion to economics, but the one thing that we may all agree on is that there is no such thing as a perfect place to live in. But the United States of America is the closest thing to perfect. Yeah! For as young as we are as a nation, we have done far more good than bad, far more justice than injustice, and far more greatness than any other great nation on this planet. And today, I see this greatness through all of you here today by participating in this event, by exercising your right in this event, by marching against tyranny, against this administration, and against political manipulation and corruption. Yeah! You know, John F. Kennedy once said it best. Ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country. Yeah! Whether you agree or disagree with their policies back then, at least they stood for the American people and for America. Unlike today, the Democratic Party has become the party of promoting hatred, division, and fear. When we, the people, promote hope and acceptance. They promote socialism. When we, the people, promote the American dream and the opportunities that this nation has to offer to millions of people if they are willing to work hard enough. They promote globalism when we promote patriotism and Americanism. They promote the past when we promote the future. They promote enemies from within to run for office throughout this nation when we promote God in within to protect this nation against the enemies. As you can tell, I am an ex-Democrat. Before I walked away from the Democratic Party, I must tell you I was convinced and I believed that they stood for equal rights, human rights, justice, freedom, liberty. At least that's what they taught us. Until the election of Donald J. Trump. Things shifted overnight. Once Donald J. Trump became President-elect Donald J. Trump, the Democratic Party shifted from an American party to an anti-American party. They shifted to the far left. So I've questioned many politicians who I've known for many years. I've questioned their integrity, their faith, their beliefs, their ideology, and to say the least, it did not go well. They called me every name in the book, from fascist to racist to bigot. I was even compared to David Duke, in which at that time did not know who he was, but now I do. And in addition to that, it was the best thing that I've ever done, because now I am a free man. I walked away from the oppression. I walked away from their oppression and from their slavery. Because I believe in my heart and as an immigrant that our first priority is the United States of America, not the party line. Whether you're Republican or Democrat, whether you're black or white, whether you're gay or straight, whether you're poor or rich, whether you're male or female. We were all Americans before we were Republicans or Democrats. We were all one people, under one nation, under one God, under one flag, in which they are trying to take God out of this nation, which is something that we cannot allow them to do. I am asking all of you to promote this message, not just throughout the state of New Jersey, but throughout this nation, in order to restore this nation, in order to heal this nation, in order to unify this nation, because we were all one. They'll try to divide us, because it is the oldest trick in the book. Divide and conquer. And that's what they are doing here. That's what they're doing throughout the United States of America. So we need to promote that message in order to restore what America is all about, or who we are as Americans. They don't call us the United States of America for no reason. Otherwise, they would have called us the divided States of America, in which that's exactly what they want. That's what the globalists want to do to the U.S., because they don't like who we are as a nation. We need to promote this message through our communities, through our friends and neighbors, and explain to them that we are Americans before any other ideology. The only ideology that we should promote is Americans' ideology, on who we are as Americans, in order to preserve the American dream, in order to restore what this nation is all about, and in order to preserve the Constitution, in which it is under attack from this very same administration. It is immoral. It is immoral and un-American to do that. That's why we need to elect the right leaders. I don't care about a party line. What I'm looking for is true American, true patriots, to put American interests ahead. America's first. That's what it should be. Not the illegal aliens. I am an immigrant. I don't have anything against immigrants. But you come to this country legally, and you abide by the law. It's very simple. Yeah. The American dream is for everyone who is willing to adapt to the American culture, to who we are as Americans. We do not have to adapt to their culture. I mean, I came in here because I did not like what I came from. I came in here because I believe in America. My children are born in the United States of America. Their children are going to be born in the United States of America, and I am very proud to call myself an American.
Yeah!
At no time in our history have we experienced such turmoil in our political landscape and social fabric. It is up to us, we the people, because the power that we have is far greater than the people in power. We can remove them, believe it or not. We can remove them. So we need to elect officials based on action and conviction, not based on political affiliation or speculation. We've been held hostages to political manipulation and media fabrications for way, way too long. It is up for us. It is up to us to overcome these challenges, to overcome these obstacles, in order to restore who we are as Americans, in order to preserve our Constitution, in order to preserve the American dream for our children and grandchildren, and in order to continue to be the greatest nation on this planet. May God bless you all, and may God bless the United States of America.
USA! 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 USA!
How's that guy, huh? The keyboard behind the Cheeseman Gillard hang on carry case. I like to call myself the keyboard for the Cheeseman Gillard carry case. It's going on right now. It's Mark's here, right? Where are you, Mark? Mark Cheeseman? He's out there? Mark Cheeseman! So, Anthony said something before about infighting in the Second Amendment community. I'm involved with CNJFO, Mark Cheeseman, John Gillard, David Jensen. We just put a amicus brief out for the Rogers case that got accepted by the Supreme Court of the United States. And Rosie's over there, CNJFO. I know Mark's standing in the back. I saw the check that Mark wrote so we could get that amicus brief to the Supreme Court. None of this is free. Costs a lot of money and time. I'm excited that all you guys are here. How many people over an hour to get here? How many people over 2 hours? I'm going to tell you a little story about 1765 New Jersey. England implements the stamp tax up and down the 13 colonies. People are hot. Paying a tax on paper, tea, glass, paint. It was only 3 shillings on paper. I did the math, calculated over the value of time. Basically it would come out to today $7 for a government document. So I know anybody who's got their driver's license or a professional license in the last year, things cost a lot more than $7. But the Americans are not happy. So up and down the 13 colonies, people are burning in effigy the stamp collectors. They're breaking into stamp collectors' houses and roughing them up. Stamp collectors are running down to the ports, getting on ships and going back to England. In Woodbridge, the stamp collector's name was Cox, C-O-X-E, William Cox. The Woodbridge Sons of Liberty were very unhappy with Mr. Cox, and they went to his house and threatened him with physical violence to resign as the stamp collector. Cox Obviously a smooth guy if he got that appointment. Says, no problem, guys. I will resign in the morning. This will all be taken care of. I won't collect any more taxes. Overnight, Cox packs up his family's stuff, puts it on a carriage, and escapes to Philadelphia, where the majority of the redcoats were stationed at the time. February. This is in February. What is it, 46 degrees today? Is that what it is? The average temperature in 1765 New Jersey, February, is under 30 degrees that year. The Woodbridge Sons of Liberty get on horseback and ride to Philly. So, again, some of you are driving over an hour, some of you are over 2 hours. These guys are on horses, 30-degree weather, riding to Philly. They knock on Mr. Cox's door. His wife answers. She's very gracious and lets him in. Probably a mistake. Imagine having all you guys show up at your door 8 o'clock at night after you said, I'm going to retire. Anyway, with a little bit of muscle, they get Cox to sign a letter of resignation. Following day, Cox gets on a ship and goes back to England. Woodbridge Sons of Liberty get on their horses, ride back through New Brunswick. I'm assuming it's what today is Route 27. And as they get closer and closer to Woodbridge, all the people turn out. People like you, standing on the side of the road as the Woodbridge Sons of Liberty are riding their horses with their letter of resignation. And all the people from New Jersey start to scream, liberty and prosperity and no stamps. I don't see any New Jersey flags out here today, but on the bottom of our flag today, it says liberty and prosperity. Think about that. The bottom of our flag, liberty and prosperity, comes from the Woodbridge Sons of Liberty, or the Sons of Liberty up and down the 13 colonies. And yet we've gotten away from that. 3 years later, in 1768, Lord Dunmore sent a circular letter to Governor William Franklin of New Jersey. All the governors, the royal governors in the 13 colonies get it. And in the circular letter it says, no one will be allowed to have gunpowder, lead, any sorts of arms or ammunition without a license from the king or his privy council. How did that go? About as good as the Stamp Act. Everything is linked. I'm a big Second Amendment in New Jersey guy. I started this crusade back in 2006 because I went to get a carry permit. When I went to the police station, through 4 inches of bulletproof glass. The guy working there asked me what I needed a carry permit for, and I asked him what he needed 4 inches of bulletproof glass for in a police station. But the fact of the matter is, whether you're here for taxes or guns or illegal immigration, it's all linked. We lose one, we're losing them all. Something needs to be done. It starts here. It starts with all of you getting on your horses and coming down here, standing in 46-degree weather. Apparently the sun doesn't shine on us. It would be taxed. We're saving money right now. The fight's going to go on. I think we're going to have some success coming up. I've told David Rosenthal that I think in our lifetime we will see carry permits again. I think the dominoes are falling. I think we win the Magman case. I think we get all that back. But it's going to be up to us to keep an eye on it. The fight's not going to be over. It's never going to be over. It's not going to be over with taxes either. We're going to have to stay behind it all. Anyway, I just thought I'd tell you that story about liberty and prosperity. My name's Jay Factor. Thanks for having me. Yeah! Thank you, Jay. Hey, let me ask you something. How many people here are legal aliens? Raise your hand. All of you are legal, right? I'm with the right crowd, right? How many of you don't like the fact that the illegals are getting all the money? Like, quiet. Millions and millions go to illegals. Come on, man. He's taxing the rain to pay for their education, to pay for their legal representation for being here illegally. Come on, doesn't that make you mad? That's your money. Come on. Yeah! At least $3 billion goes towards illegals out of this state budget. Did you know that? Build the wall! Build the wall, exactly. But this governor wants to make this a sanctuary state, so we get MS-13 and all these other criminal elements that come in.
He's a crook!
He's the biggest crook. But anyway, you guys gotta be a little louder, be a little more... Come on, are you mad? Yeah! All right. Next speaker will be Tony Simon, my friend, the 2A community, Tony. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Cold enough for you? Yes. Our enemies of our civil rights, enemies of the Second Amendment, they own a weather machine. Wasn't it like 60 degrees last week? Every time we have a pro-2A, pro-rights rally, all of a sudden it gets cold, it starts snowing from the ground up. I have no idea what's going on here.
Because we're tough.
You're tough, I'm cold. If you don't know me, my name is Tony Simon. I'm from the Second Is for Everyone Diversity Shoot. We host this at Gun for Hire Range every other month. It's a workshop designed to bring all people together, regardless of race, regardless of color, regardless of gender, regardless of sexual orientation. The Second Amendment is for everyone, until you get to Jersey. Then it's for everybody but you. This, hold on, because I don't want to be a big brave dog, call this guy a name and get arrested. This governor ran on the friggin' platform that he's going to take our rights away. Sign any Second Amendment legislation that comes across his desk that's anti-Second Amendment. And it seems every time someone wants to take our rights away, they also want to take our money away and tax you to death. And this guy's rolling in. Hold on a second.
He's got to wet his whistle.
I ain't paying tax on this water. I bought it across state lines. Just like I can buy 30-round magazines across state lines. So, there's that law. Understand, people, there's always the same faces out here because you people come out and make it happen. We need to get our friends, we get our neighbors. It ain't all about guns. It's about rights. Once they take the second, they can take anything else. We have to make people aware that they have to vote in the primaries. They have to pick who runs. They actually have to get off their butts and vote. 70% of our friends and neighbors stayed home and did not vote in this election. So that's how this governor got elected. Because most people stayed home. We have to participate. We have to be part of this. We have to call, write, rally. All of us, we're doing the heavy lifting. We continually do the heavy lifting for all the gun owners who sit at home, for all the guys who sit around the bar after work and complain about how much of their tax money is taken. We do the heavy lifting. Don't complain about it, be about it. Why is a bunch of people down here freezing their butts off? Just us. This is crap. We have to be active, all of us. We have to write. We have to call these people and let them know they work for us. That's what we need to do, and we also need to convince our friends and neighbors to do the same thing. Because if you don't, it only gets worse. As you've seen in this state. I moved here in 93. This place has gotten stupider and stupider since 1993. I moved here, I was like, hey, I'm moving to Jersey. Now people say, where are you from? I'm like, Jersey. And then they apologize to me. Look, we got to get this done, guys, and we can do it. There are 1 million gun owners in this state. Yes, that's my thing. I'm a Second Amendment advocate. If you're here for taxes, cool. I hate paying them too. But really, it's the Second Amendment that I'm here for.
We need to fight this because there's a million gun owners, and we can actually make people afraid of us. Excuse me, these people afraid of us. By voting them out of their cushy jobs and sitting on their butts, staring at us through windows, going, ha ha, look at them. I can't wait for you people to be unemployed.
Yeah!
You suck.
Yeah!
Don't take my rights away. Now, I just want to throw this out about rights, being African American, and people ask me, how are you pro-gun? I'm pro-civil rights. I'm pro all civil rights, but definitely my civil rights. I'm the first generation of African American born in this country with all of my rights. Last civil rights legislation passed in '68 in this country. I was born in 1970. I was born with the same rights as a white kid. I'm not giving my rights away because you scared. I'm not giving my freedoms away because you think somehow an AR-15 is going to run in the classroom and shoot your little boo-boo. It doesn't happen. You can't legislate away evil. Evil will not be stopped by bills. But what will be stopped is law-abiding citizens from protecting themselves and their families.
Yeah!
We can't allow that to happen. We have to get together and we have to vote this governor out of office. And we got to get his cronies out of office. So that means you got to vote for people that believe in your rights in the primaries. And then vote for them again in November. All right, guys, that's enough because I think my hand is frozen to the podium. So I'm going to get out of here. God bless you. I love you. Thank you for coming out.
Yeah!
How many patriots out here today swore an oath and served our country in the military? Raise your hand. Thank you all. Something our politicians forget. They swore an oath to the Constitution. They are, in fact, oath breakers every day.
Every one of them.
Without further ado, I'd like to introduce another Marine. You know, Tony Simon is a Marine over there. David Padua. How are we doing this morning?
Yeah!
I don't hear you!
Yeah!
All right, I have a few things to say. First, the United States Constitution does not, I repeat, does not exist to grant you rights. Those are inherent within you. Rather, it exists to frame a limited government so that those natural rights can be exercised freely.
Yeah!
Exactly. All right. There is something inscribed on this wall, on this building, on that wall, on that building. I bet you anything that our legislatures, even that guy they call a governor, I guess, doesn't know what it says. Well, I'm going to educate them. The legislature, by the enactment of wise laws, the governor, by causing them to be faithfully executed, the courts, by impartially interpreting them, have earned for New Jersey an invaluable reputation. That is on that wall. On that wall, it says, this building is erected upon ground hallowed by the blood and made sacred by the sacrifices of the forefathers of our state and nation, who offered everything they had upon their country's altar. Let's go, sound off!
Yeah!
All right, ladies and gentlemen, I got this from a gentleman in Rhode Island. I asked his permission to read it here, and he did grant it. His name is Rob Perillo, and it goes like this. Good morning, and thank you all again for your time today. The United States of America, above all else, is a constitutional republic.
Yeah!
Yes, we have a democracy in which we get to vote for our elected officials. But our elected officials, above all else, are limited in their power. And in the legislature that you pass by the Constitution of the United States, a document on which you raise your right hand to God and swore an oath to a document whose premises regularly are under attack. Unfortunately, it's being attacked by the very people who are sworn to abide by it. Our government. That's who is attacking it. This government. Murphy.
Recall Murphy! Recall Murphy! Recall Murphy! Recall Murphy!
And it is we, the people, it is our fault that Constitution is under attack. We, the American people, who is supposed to have control of our government, have been asleep at the wheel and all too trusting, while you, our legislatures, senators, representatives, and politicians of all parties and backgrounds have run amok, unabashedly using your power and influence to limit the freedoms and liberties of us, the individuals. Americans love to proclaim that we are a free people, yet we have lost sight of what it means to be free, and in saying so, are lying to ourselves. Yes, we are fortunate enough to have freedoms that others in the world do not. But we are no longer free as our founders have intended us to be. Yet those very founders have foreseen how even in America a runaway government could become problematic, such as this. And they added an amendment to the Constitution, a fail-safe, if you will, that would protect us all. The rampant abuse powers of our government, an inalienable constitutional right to keep and bear arms.
Yeah!
The founders saw this as so important. The founders saw this as so important and necessary. It was the Second Amendment to our Constitution, directly following the right to free speech, which I'm fortunate enough to benefit from here today. The founders of this great land knew, having just won a war for their freedom against an unjust power, that given enough time, all governments have a propensity to become too powerful, such as this, and rain tax. And is a direct result. The freedoms of its constitutions falter. This was their reasoning behind their inclusion of a right to keep and bear arms. They even went as far to include, even though it already implied, the phrase shall not be infringed.
Yeah!
This does not mean that you
regardless of how many people call on you so can limit the type of capacity of firearms that we as free Americans can own. And don't forget that at the time of the country's founding, Americans had access legally to the same type of weaponry that the military had. And that was the point. That was the whole point of it. It was for our protection. Ours, yours, mine, yours and mine. Our protection against the state. That how we can keep them in check. That's how we keep them in check. I think if we look at the tremendous amount of overreach practiced today by the United States and states government, it's pretty apparent why those at the very top want to take away this means of protection that our forefathers entrusted in us.
First gun control, then power control.
They realize that we Americans who hold our liberties dear are fed up. We are tired of being overregulated. We are tired of being taxed until we are near penniless. We are tired of our money going to a Federal Reserve to pay an unsustainable amount of debt that we have to international banksters who couldn't care less about America. We're tired of having to ask our government's permission for a license to do things that are within our God-given right as free people to do.
That's right.
Yeah! We are tired of seeing state-run programs being ran inefficiently, ineffectively, and wastefully. We are tired of news outlets, Hollywood, social media, and the education system being used as propaganda to indoctrinate the populace and advance the state's agenda. Yeah! We the people. We the people are tired of being lied to. We are tired of going to war under false pretenses. To summarize, we are tired of our uncontrollable and overreaching government, especially here in New Jersey. Yeah! While we the people feel our voices have fallen on deaf ears to politicians, make no mistake that amongst the citizens there is a quiet storm brewing. We are approaching a tipping point, and you'd be remiss to think that those at the top of the power structure are not shaking in the bands.
They work for us!
It doesn't take much critical thought to surmise why they are trying so hard to pass legislation against privately owned munition. And to those who support these legislatures, it's my understanding that you believe you're here and you're advocating against violence. On the contrary, you are advocating for violence. If the state decides to make a 5-round magazine, a 5-round magazine,
Absolutely not.
will not comply. And assault weapons. An assault weapon? What the hell is an assault weapon? Which, by the way, is incredibly vague and ambiguous term. I'm almost done. I don't think anybody can really define it if you decide to make them illegal. Are you advocating that the state use violence or threat of violence to disarm innocent Americans? Because it certainly sounds like it.
Time to try.
You can't sincerely believe that we are just going to forfeit our rights to self-defense. Knowing the purpose of this right and understanding the unlawfulness of civil asset forfeiture, notwithstanding the money people have spent on their munitions. What happens when we defy these laws? Are you advocating that men with guns come to take away our guns? Because it sure sounds like it. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you.